Welcome back to another episode of Vintage to Sowing Time, where we reap what we sow. Today I'm bringing you along for a major project that I am embarking on today, and I'll see how far I get with it. And what is happening right now, I'm in the process of developing this space into a formal garden. I grew items here last season, but not as a real formal garden, just sporadic, a little seed here, a little tree there. But right now I'm in the process of developing this area into a formal garden, and you will notice that I've already put in a pathway. Now the pathway that we currently have here is made of wood. Very simple. 1 by 12, right, that I have cut into 16 inches across, and they have been doing a good job so far, for the pathway up and down from the bottom level of the garden to the top level and up to the dwelling area. The issue with these is that at any time that this wood can crack, we have one down to the bottom that cracked a bit, and I had to put in some small strips to the back of it. What I want to do is to put in something that is more permanent than this wood, that I would not have to necessarily repair for a little bit or for a while. With this wood, we have 2 pieces of steel at the front to prevent them from sliding off. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to replace the wood with a crate, right? A plastic crate. I'm going to use this just as the frame, place it in the space where I want it to be on the ground, and then fill it up to the top with concrete. So what I would have the frame holding the concrete. I am going to put 2 pieces of steel. Let me just bring it a bit closer to see. So I am going to use these 2 pieces of steel that we currently have here. That was the steel that was actually holding this wood in place. Now I'm going to remove the wood, and I'm going to use, as I said, this crate. I'm going to make sure that it is positioned in the space by just digging around it so it can settle in, flat. Then I'm going to take these 2 pieces of steel, put them inside the space under the crate, and then I'm going to fill the crate in that space with concrete. Once I do that, we would have 2 forms of security. One would be the steel holding the concrete in place, and the concrete holding the crate in place. So that is the task for today. That's what we're embarking on today. I have already gotten the sands that I need. 2 buckets of sand. I'm going to work with 2 buckets of sand, 1 bucket of gravels, and 2 bags of cement. I think I may just only need about 1.5 bags, but I have 2 bags of cement, and that should be what we need to accomplish this assignment for today, this task for today. So I'm bringing you along, and we would see how this turns out. If this turns out well, we would have a wonderful pathway down in this space, which would make it much easier when we're coming up or going down in this part of the garden. So let's begin. So my first assignment would be to get these steels back out of the area where they are currently, because now I need to reposition them inside of where the crate is going to be. So first order is to get a level spot for the crate. Okay, all that I'm doing is just finding a level seat for my crate. I'm not sure how long this task is going to take me today, but this is the task of the day, so it doesn't really matter, you know, how long it takes. All right, that can sit right there. So what I would do while I'm doing each of them is that I would just put in the steel in place one time, so that once I'm through, I can just start pouring my concrete. Right? That steel is going nowhere. Okay, they're going nowhere from there. All right, so now that's comfortable right there. That's much better. All right, so that's one crate that is in. We're on our way. We're on to the second one. And if you are meticulous and with making sure everything is straight, you can draw a line, you can pull a line from the top down to make sure that, you know, everything is in complete alignment. Because I already have a line out, I don't necessarily have to do that. I just have to eyeball, you know, it to see, to make sure that it is straight going down. But in any case, it is not a big deal. And that, at least for me, if it is a big deal for you, then you do whatever it takes to make sure that it is straight. Right? We're just gonna jam these basically in place. That's what we're doing. We're just basically jamming them in place. Right? Get in there. Get in there. But this is DIY. Good. And then I will get the steels that I was using at the front originally. Just knock them out of place. Remember, these were what I was using to hold the woods in place to prevent them from the woods from sliding away. Now I'm using them back, but I'm using them in a different capacity. Still in a supporting role, but more in the center of the crate. Tight and nice. That's a good hold. A good hold to lock the concrete around. That's number 2 in place. And what we will do after we are through with the concrete, we can always backfill. We can always backfill these. All right, that's number 2 in place. I'm excited for these and, you know, the results. So let's get going with the mixing of our concrete. We are going to mix the concrete ourselves. Yes. We're not going to call anyone to mix it for us. We are going to mix it ourselves. I'm going to mix it, and you're going to help me from wherever you are watching me. Just by being there, you will be helping me. So let's get going with that. All right. So we are about to mix our concrete, and I'm going to gloves up because you really don't want to play around with the chemicals in the cement and your hand. It's not going to kill you, but it may strip your finger a little bit. And if you don't want that to happen, then the best thing to do is to gloves up. I'm just using some plastic gloves. I guess you can use some cloth ones also, but these are the closest that I could find right now, so I'm going to use these. I've already put in the sand. That is 2 buckets of sand, and when you mix in concrete, there is a ratio of 2 to 1. So to every 2 buckets of sand, you use one pack or sack of cement. So we have 2 buckets of sand there, and I'm going to use 1 bucket of gravel. So that will make it 3 buckets total. So that being the case, I'm going to use 1.5 bags of cement. I can use up to 2 bags of cement because the gravel is a little bit heavy, which I just may do because I don't have any other purpose for the other half of cement, and it would just stay there and get hard on me. So I would just use the two packs of cement, but I could have just used 1.5 packs of cement. All right, so let's get going. Again, sand is already on my mixing board. I'm gonna now add in my gravel. One bucket of gravels and my cement, and all of these are the dry materials. The reason why you need the gloves? That's why you need your gloves. I had a small cement mixer, but in one of the storms that we had, it was destroyed in one of the storms that we had. I have not purchased back another one since then. This is the second bag. Seems as if the board is a little bit too small. Let's see how we can manage on this board. So the trick now is to mix these things together before we add any liquid. And because it is the board is small, notice that right now we are barely seeing any particular item by itself. We are not seeing the cements by themselves. That's when you will know that you're doing a good job of mixing everything together. people think that there is a certain amount of job for a woman and there's something else for a man. But whatever a man can do, a woman can do it better. I know some of my male viewers are not gonna like that, but whatever a man can do, a woman can do it better. Yep, we were just wired that way. Alright, so I think this is mixed now. I'm going to add my water. But I'm not going to add water to the entire amount. I'm going to mix it in half. Right? Like your flour that you're kneading, you don't want it to be too soft, right? I'm gonna add some water to my bucket so that it is not hard to come out when I get up to the location. Right? Here we go. Get a little bit of salt there. All right, here we go. Now, this is very heavy, eh? And because I'm going up a hill, I am not going to strain myself with too much of it. Alright, so I have already dealt with half of the cement mixture. I've put in that already, mixed it up and carried it to the crates already. And now it is time for the second half. So let's get going with that. Right now the rain is drizzling a bit, it's a bit overcast. Let's hope that it just stays overcast but not raining, right? Because I can deal with the coolness. You know, one of the benefits of working manually like this, it helps to clear your sinus up. If you have a stuffy sinus, go out in the garden and start working. You'll be surprised that your sinus is cleared by the time you're finished. By the time you're finished with that work, you will not have a clogged sinus. A bit of art going on here. A bit of art going on here. So that you don't strain yourself. And the garden, the pose is helping greatly. I would not have liked if I have to go and fetch some water in a bucket. In a bucket and come with this. I would have added to the stress of mixing on my hand. This amount really requires a nice small cement mixer. Those one-man cement mixer where an individual is working that they can use to make their work lighter. Yeah, I had one of those, but yep, the storm of 2018. Irma and Maria. I don't know which of them to blame, but maybe each of them took a part of it. And left me with the remnant. See, we're eating it. We're eating it bit by bit. Bit by bit, little by little. I'm going to work with this for now. I need the other piece dry until I'm finished with this portion that is already mixed, already wet. comes the rain. Here comes it. You know, it's not a bad thing when you're walking with concrete like this for the rain to come. It's not a bad thing because the rain helps to settle it, especially if it is flat on the ground. If you're dealing with walls, if you're plastering walls, then that's not a good thing. But if you're doing a pavement, the rain is a blessing if you're walking with a pavement. Because you know people, you know when you're walking with pavement, what you will normally do after you've paved is that you will get your hose repeatedly and wet down the area to help it to dry in a way that it does not crack. So if the rain comes, that eliminates you having to go and catch that water. The rain is doing it for you. So I claim it as a blessing. It's a blessing. It's a blessing. The trace that I'm feeling now is a blessing. To get into those crates, wet them down a bit and have them to settle better. So I'm not upset, I'm not confused, I'm frustrated by the rain. Thank you, Lord, for the rain. That's what I need to thank God for the rain. Thank you, Jesus, for the rain. Alright, I'm going to just wet this out with a tingy bit. Have you ever heard of a tingy bit? You know, you're going to learn some of the little slangs that we have in the Caribbean. If you don't use those slangs, then you'll become familiar a bit with them. And it's always good to know what your neighbor is saying. And sometimes we have a language, we speak that language, and that's the only language we accept as the language. So if anybody says anything outside of that, we sometimes find it as an opportunity for mockery. No, Lord, it's a new opportunity. It's a new way of saying the same thing. It doesn't hurt to learn something new. See how soft that looks? Real nice, well mixed. That's what your mortar, your concrete should look like to know that it is mixed. All right, so we are gonna go now, and I'm gonna carry it up. Let's see if you can see where I'm going. Yes, I'm going up that hill. You can see up the hill a bit. See you up the hill, all the way up there, up to the hill. We have to get some concrete in this morning, right? So let's do that. Shower is this way. Yeah, shower. Make sure you have a shower. All right. Oh, I'm tired. Yeah, I'm tired, very tired, but it's good to be tired. If you're not tired when you work, it means you're not doing anything, right? All right, so we just fill it in back in these now. Now that I know I would have enough, and if I try to move this, I cannot move it as hard as I try. Cannot move it. It's locked in. It's now locked in. Now locked in. Now locked in. I'm going to just leave that there, go back through, because I still have dry mix shredded that's not mixed yet. So I'll leave that there. I'll go to the next. I'll just keep going back and forth to ensure that I have enough of all of them, rather than giving one man a lot and another man none, which is the way of the world. That's how the world operates. Some have a lot and some don't have any, but we're not going to do that here, right? We're going to feed them bit by bit. Ensure that everybody gets a bit of the pie. But I am amazed. Well, not amazed, but I am happily amazed. I don't even know if I want to use the word amazed. I am happy that these are like, I am trying my might to move it, but it's not moving. It is locked in. And the back part of the crates, if for example any concrete leaves over, I'll just throw it to the back and then backfill it with the sand, which would form like a footing, and then the sand locks in the footing to even make it stronger. So that's something that we would aim for. If we have any extra concrete that leaves over after we've done all that we need to do in terms of filling in, we just straight to the back of each of them and backfill with sand to lock the footing. Right? That's what this is all about today. Accomplishing the mission of being able to come up and down this hillside. You know, some people have a very nice flat space for their garden, and they don't need to be concerned with this, but not all of us have been blessed with a flat space for our garden. Some of us have to do you know, with a small space, and it's on a hill, on a slope, and we still have to make the best out of it. We still have a responsibility to use what we have. It is still a responsibility, rather than sitting down and say, you know what, my space is this and my space is that, my space is not like that other person's, and my space is not like that other person's, so I can't do anything. Nope, that's absolutely no excuse. You work with what you have, and if you work with what you have, then you're qualified for an elevation. You're qualified for something greater. You're qualified to you know, to acquire something better, because you have learned how to work with what you have. So it means, it doesn't mean whatever, it doesn't mean what, it doesn't matter, sorry. It doesn't matter what you get, you would always work with it, and that's what God wants to see. He wants to see that you're faithful with little, so He can give you greater. So work with what you have, and stop looking at your neighbor and compare yourself to what your neighbor has, and because you don't have it the same way your neighbor has it, it means that you can't do anything. Nope, no excuse. Work with what you have, and again, as I said, it will qualify you for elevation. All right, so we are close to the ending of this project, and the last thing that I'm going to do is I am going to fill some of these holes with stones, because otherwise every time I throw in the concrete, it's gonna ooze out. Because remember, these are crates, so the crates have lots of holes, so that would prevent it from filling up as I would love to have them fill up. Right now they are just about filled, but you know, just so I can have a smoother finish on the top, I am gonna just fill some of these areas with stone. Another thing is that I paused a bit to give the concrete, you know, a little bit of time to harden, and with that also, it would make it easier when I'm adding concrete at this point, because the hardened concrete would prevent what I'm putting in now from sliding all the way down to the bottom and out of the crate. So that's another trick that you know, we can use in order to fill it up in a way that we can have a smooth top. And that's if that's necessary for you. If it is not, then the main thing is to have your crates anchored and you can walk on them without them moving. Look, this is going nowhere. These crates are going absolutely nowhere. They are solid as a rock. Solid as a rock, and they have not even dried completely, but just the weight of whatever concrete you put in them locked into the steel that's, you know, that was driven into the earth. That alone has them like completely anchored. So the smoothness on top is just my preference, but it's not necessary. It's absolutely not necessary. So it's really up to you based on the finish that you want. If you're going to use this method, it's really based, you know, it's up to you. It's up to you. It is up to you. I wish you were here to try to move these crates out of the way to see that no way, you cannot get them moved. They have completely been anchored into the earth, locked in completely. So what I'm doing here is really not necessary, but we're gonna do it anyway. We are gonna do it anyway. Can find some stones for some of these small areas. I went on my garden and I picked up as much as I can. I probably just leave the space in the corners, but my task here is just about finished. My task is just about finished, and I am satisfied with how everything turned out. I'm really satisfied with how everything turned out. I have a bucket of stones, so let's see if we can use it in the lower areas, and then we put in our last finish touch on them, and as we would normally say, and call it George. Call it George for today. Call it George for today. That's it. Looking good. Looking very good. All right. So I am going to go to the bottom where I have the last set of concrete that I've mixed. I still have a bit that is not mixed. I am going to bring what I've mixed and smooth out the tops of these. And if they need any more, then I will mix the last bit. Other than that, actually I will still mix the last bit and just spray to the back to lock them in the back, which would be more like a small footing. And then we just fill them back up with some soil. Alright, so we are through with our project or with our project for today. We were able to anchor our crates to create a pathway up this hill. These were the woods on the outside that you're looking at. These were the woods that were in these spaces, but every now and then when you walked on them, they were flopping a bit, and because of the thinness of them, because they're very thin, we know that at any moment they could have just split, you know, broken. So this was the alternative to get the some crates, anchor them with some steel inside, and then fill them with concrete. And notice that I'm saying concrete because the concrete gives us a rough finish. It has in the gravel, and that makes the big difference. If it did not contain gravel, then we would have called it mortar, right? Which is what you would use for a nice smooth finish. But I prefer to use the gravel, which, you know, give it a more tighter fitting or tighter hold. So that's the reason why I use concrete instead of mortar. If now I want to get a real smooth finishing, then I can always go now and get some mortar and, you know, smooth it off once it's very dry. But that's not necessary. It's just a path. It's just, you know, something creating a pathway up, you know, up and down the garden, because again my garden is sloped, so it's not necessary. All that I need to do now is allow these to dry, and then I can start walking up and down this hill easier without much, you know, frustration, which was usually the case. Sometimes you have to hold on, sometimes you would slide a bit, but now that is not necessary, because now we have a better, you know, stairway coming up and down the garden area. Thank you so much for spending the last few moments with me. I hope that you learned something. If you never mixed any concrete, then I hope that you got some kind of tip today to show you how to do that. Remember that when you're mixing, for every 2 buckets of sand, it is 1 cement. That's the ratio. Well, thank you so much for being with me today on Vintage to Sewing Time, where you reap what you sow. God bless you until next time.